When the people demanded change in 2011, they did it with poetry. And it's with verse they continue to taunt regimes blind to the writing on the wall, which is also poetry.
سأمارس السحر الأسود وأقود ثورة بلادي.
سئمنا من تشتتنا وكل الناس تتكتل.
In this region, poets are superstars. Poets of Protest delves into the soul of the Middle East through its contemporary poets as they struggle to lead, to interpret, and to inspire. Palestinian Mazen Maarouf grew up as a refugee in Lebanon, but his criticism of the Syrian regime resulted in death threats, and this rising international poetry star was forced into exile in a very alien land.
I never imagined that I will be in Iceland. My name is Mazen Maarouf. I was raised in Beirut as a Palestinian refugee. I've lived all my life in Beirut and part of my childhood in the camp of Shatila. Lately, I was obliged to leave Beirut for political reasons, and I live now in Iceland. It's amazing when you just think that all of this is just frozen water. This is the lake. And here everybody can be Christ because he's able to walk on the frozen water. You know, the journey of writing poetry has no definite destinations. What I need as my luggage is a notebook. This notebook is your luggage that is empty. And when you walk in the street, you feel it. Sometimes I don't write anything. It may pass like two months, 3 months without writing any single word. And this makes me very nervous. To be in a city with no army, in a country where the police doesn't carry arms or any kinds of like, I mean, it's very different. And somehow we as young Arabs that are born and raised up within an atmosphere of tension and conflicts and suppression all the time, to come to a city that is very calm and peaceful, it's somehow confusing as well. Being political refugee in Lebanon and political refugee here, it's related to the time I lived all my life as political refugee in Lebanon, and now I'm just living very short time here. Usually I don't sleep much. I'm not having very nice dreams. I'm still bound to my inner thoughts. Beirut was all the time resonating between like being the city of mine and being the city that is rejecting me. DNA. ثمة طريقة واحدة للصراخ، أن تتذكر أنك فلسطيني. طريقة واحدة لتأمل وجهك غير المرتب في نافذة الباص، حيث تمر أيضا بعض الأشجار التي تقف أمامها وبعض العتالين. طريقة واحدة لبلوغ طبقة الأوزون خفيفا كبالون بالهيليوم، للبكاء لأنك وغد حقيقي. طريقة واحدة لتضع يدك بين نهدي التي تحب وتحلم أشياء بعيدة. اللوفر وشقة صغيرة في إحدى ضواحي باريس. والكثير الكثير من الوحدة والكتب. طريقة واحدة للصراخ في البلاليع، حيث صورتك تتراءى ثانية في مياه المجارير، حيث تتذكر حينها بطريقة واحدة فقط أنك لست حتما إلا فلسطيني. I am called to be in Paris because of my poetry. It's my poetry calling me. I'm now in Paris to work with my translator concerning my new book of poetry, let's say poetry collection, called An Angel on Clothesline. Yeah. I wrote DNA poem in 2002 in Saida in Lebanon, and at that time I wasn't knowing anything about Paris. I mentioned in one part that one way to dream, and you dream of Paris, you dream small flat in Paris and the Louvre. I was writing about Paris in DNA like as place to flee into, as place to get respected. This place just very far, and it's resting on the horizon. Now I'm in Paris, and I'm here in the progress of publishing my book in French, and this is a big jump.
Free Palestine! Support our cause! They think I'm French. I don't know if they know that I'm Palestinian. They will maybe feel shy that they are, having some very wonderful time, and they are waving for Palestinian, who is refugee, let's say, Anyway, many Palestinians are in much worse state than me. But yes, it's sarcastic somehow. When you sometimes you meet someone and you tell him that you are Palestinian, and he's directly stands on the edge of tears, and you feel he wants to cry and hug you, and I say, wait, stop. We don't need emotions anymore, The cause of Palestine doesn't need emotions anymore. We need minds. We need to think about our cause. We don't need to cry, For sure we will cry for our victims, let's say. And we will cry when something bad happens to our people, but we don't need to be like covered with this blanket of sadness. I'm very happy and I'm scared somehow because I'm concerned that the translation has to be like well reflecting the text, and I'm very eager to see how people will interact with my text.
The book is already published now in Beirut. When I was there, my book wasn't there. And now I left Beirut, but my book is published right now in Beirut. And let's say I'm happy as well that my voice is there. You know, it's not my image, but my voice.
بعدين طيب. D'accord. J'ai
حلم هلا هون الحلم بدنا انه مش يمكن مش
بسيط.
حلم ريف مثل انه
شوي.
وي.
My name is François Zabal. Every year we receive 10 to 15 poets from the Arab world. I met Mazen Maarouf last year in Lodev. I am the first translator of his poems, so I'm glad to meet him again and to work on new poems since he has changed style and images.
أن أصنع كوكبا آخر. هلا هون أن أصنع
Fabriqué.
فابريكي يتسع
Qui contiennent
المجتمع الفلسطيني مكسر، مثل انه خلص تعال مش رح نسنقف بعض هيك شيء يعني، بس انه شو في بقلبي وشو في بقلبك بعده مثل ما هو. في كره، في نوع من التعصب الطائفي، ما بعرف يعني طائفية سياسية مش طائفية مذهبية. سيء جدا وضعني. يعني أنا بفوت مثلا بيلحقني واحد، بيلحقك بضل عم بيراقبك شو جاي تعمل يعني. عرفت شو؟ ما بيأمنوا لحدا، وعندك تيارات إسلامية متطرفة ما بدك هيك صار شيء يعني. The revolution started in Syria in March 2011, and I, among many people, were taking part in supporting this revolution, like by writings and publishing articles that support people from one side and criticize the regime, you know. You cannot justify for a regime to kill its people by this brutal way. This wasn't very pleasing for some people, and you can expect that you will not be very safe. Being Palestinian is different than being Lebanese. Being Lebanese, you can criticize the Syrian regime, but being Palestinian and writing, criticizing such regimes, like my state, it will bother many people who are calling and who are carrying the banners, let's say, and the big boards of free Palestine, you know, and they are ruling the country in the name of this slogan. So that was mainly one of the reasons that forced me to leave Lebanon and move to Iceland. Let's say the situation is somehow complicated, and it's like, you know, another layer of being refugee. When you are in Lebanon, you are refugee in one sense. When you are in Iceland, you are more refugee. These things accumulate all in my mind, and like, you know, they just motivate my sensitivity to being writing poetry. الفضاء. الفضاء الممتلئ بالأحجار الكبيرة كالقمر لا يتسع أحيانا لتوسل بائعة اليانصيب أو لموت صديق. لا يتسع لأولاد يلعبون حتى آخر النهار كرة القدم، لكنه يبقى ذلك الفضاء الذي تتنهد أمامه بائعة اليانصيب، ونرى فيه وجه صديق مات. ذلك الفضاء الذي يتحول أكبر أحجاره طابة يركلها الأولاد بقسوة بعد آخر النهار. When I write a poem, I am dipping into the past of Mazen Maarouf, into his memory. When I see something beautiful in Paris, let's say, this interaction is sometimes interrupted by this phantom of the past, like that is just throwing itself between me and the scene itself, so that I feel like a state of being happy but interrupted all the time by something in the past. يد أمي. يد أمي أكثر خشونة من يد باب مقشور. بها أرفع أول هدية ربحتها في السحبة. بها أشتري محاية لأزيل وجهها، وجه أمي، أزيله بالكامل، مبقيا على التجاعيد في الهواء ماثلة أمامي كشبكة عنكبوت أعمى. In these poems, the new poems, I want to get back to myself. It's not to my everyday life, but it is to the consequences of this everyday life. I was just writing in a way to get satisfied because I was feeling unsatisfied of the world. And I think poetry makes us less unsatisfied. The Arabic language mainly, like, it wasn't subjected to any change since the 18th century. So we have a very old dictionary. We need, as urgent action to take care of the Arabic language and to be able to widen it. I'm looking for a place to write one of my poems in Paris, in chalk. So
I'm just trying to find a suitable place where my poem can last for at least one day before it's being erased by a hand that I don't know. I like trees. They look like, for me, like traffic lights for birds. Only birds can read their sign. That's why they can move from one tree to another freely. And on behalf of birds, I will follow the trees. I think we can be here. Let's do it the Arab way, passing the street like that. How do you say wall in French? Mur. D'accord. Bonjour. Excusez-moi, je cherche un mur.
Un mur?
Non, oui. Qui je peux écrire un poème sur? Oui. Mur belle. Beau ou belle?
Parce que la craie, vous pouvez écrire un peu partout. Un peu partout avec la craie.
D'accord.
À vous de chercher un beau mur. Hein. Allez voir en haut, près du passe-muraille.
Oui.
À Montmartre.
Je sais.
Oui, allez-y. Passe-muraille là-bas.
Oui, d'accord. Merci. Bonne journée. Merci.
handmade. عندي حلم بسيط، أن أصنع كوكبا آخر يتسع لجميع أعدائي، أسبقهم إليه وأسكنه مؤقتا، نقضم قطاعه اللذيذة حين نجوع، القطعة الأخيرة منه، القطعة الأخيرة فقط تستحق أن نتقاتل لأجلها.